Peace, world. How you doing? It's your brother Mikey Fever. Welcome to another episode of NYP Talk Show, the most coolest podcast within the conscious community. We are anti-BS over here. It's all about spreading love and learning information from all spectrums. Tonight we have a special guest, Man of Madim. Before we go into the show, don't forget to comment, like, share, subscribe. We got super chats. We have merch, as you can see that I'm wearing. And do engage. When you do pick up your merch, do take a selfie, tag yourself to our social media pages to let us know that you're with the NYP movement. Without further ado, how you doing, brother? Man of Madim, welcome.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate you welcoming me onto your show. I'm looking to enjoy a nice discussion.
Definitely, no doubt. That's what we're here for. So before we get into it, brother, where you from?
I am originally from Southern California.
Mm-hmm.
Lived in Denver, Colorado for a while, and now I reside in Las Vegas.
Nice. So you be out there, you be gambling, huh?
No, not gambling for me.
I'm messing with you, brother. That's cool. That's cool, man. So tell us about your background, man. Were you, nationality wise, how were you raised? Were you raised in a religious family?
So my mom came from the Philippines when she was around 11 or 12.
Mm-hmm.
They landed in Virginia and then came out west not long after she was in high school, I believe. And my father is just your normal white American with all different types of English and stomach blood. Actually, through my ancestry lately, I found there's actually a lot of English on that side, on my dad's side. But I've always kind of engaged more with my Filipino side just because I grew up around those relatives a lot more. But no, we weren't a religious household. If anything that got me into religion, faith, or anything else that has to do with the concept of God and spirits,
Mm-hmm.
It was mostly just like watching like horror movies as a kid and the supernatural aspects of those that kind of, made me gravitate towards the unknown realities of the world. So I've been curious about that.
That's dope. So, like, before we get in, what got you into wanting to learn about the occult? Like, what really made it concrete thing to want to learn the occult?
So yeah, growing up, I had my aunt and my cousin. They were pretty hardcore born again Christian. He was homeschooled and everything. So me and him would often chat about God and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of just, increased my curiosity and what I would hear him say about, people being damned to hell and things like that. It really just made me think like, there has to be more to it than this. So, that's what led me to alternative faiths. At being at a young age, I didn't have the capabilities to grasp like Buddhism or Hinduism or anything else that was outside of the Abrahamic world.
Mm-hmm.
And so I found myself looking at more towards like the rebellious side of religion. So you have your, Anton LaVey Satanic Bible and his form. And so that, get kind of diving into that is what kind of really just like reinforced my curiosity in the occult. Then I met a good friend of mine that was a coworker of my dad's. When I got kicked out of school, I had to start working, and he kind of turned me on to like Crowley and and like the Necronomicon and things like that. And he showed me like a lot of cool like death metal bands that were really into their music substance was revolved around ceremonial magic and cool stuff like that. So that
that kind of music.
yes. I was always a lover of all different types of music, so I could go from death metal to Celine Dion. It didn't matter. That solidified my interest in the occult. And then in my teen years, I really didn't do much dabbling in it because I was really I was interested in ceremonial magic, and you kind of had to, if you don't have a means of finance, you really can't do it because
it costs.
Yeah, it costs
money.
So I really focused on my career. That's when I got into cooking. And 2019, when I moved to Denver, is when I finally decided to really follow through with a practice. And that's when I looked up a Golden Dawn temple in Denver, and I was initiated into that temple.
Okay, that's what's up, man. But pretty thorough, man. And I know about the music because they had like the who was it, Ozzy with that Mr. Crawley, something like that. Told you, I used to be pumping that music back then too, on the low. You know what I'm saying? So let's get into it. Let's get into it. What is ceremonial magic?
Ceremonial magic. That is a broad question for sure. But I guess the most simple way to put it, it's magical techniques that derived from Western magic, and compiled into a ritual or a ceremony. There's a lot of different ways that I could talk about it, but I think that is the most simple way to put it. It's just it's continuous rites, one after another, of spirit conjuration, invocation, and most likely a petition or a charge of the spirit or some type of spell casting, that the whole amalgamation of rites culminate into.
Got you. That's dope. And I know you mentioned rites and that because that's very important when dealing with ceremonial magic. We gotta know rites and theurgy, right? So, what role did the ancient Egyptian temple play in the development of ceremonial magic?
Oh, I mean, so what we practice in Western magic today, let me backtrack a little bit. So within the Western magical community, a lot of people see ceremonial magic as being more the modern Golden Dawn style of magic, lodge magic, magical Renaissance magic, as in like in the Victorian age, the 1800s, early 1900s. And then you have grimoire magic, which is still very ceremonial. So ceremonial magic is a good umbrella for that. But all of this magic that we practice within the Western traditions, it all came from the Fertile Crescent. So we're talking about Arabic influences. We're talking about Mediterranean and of course Greek. We're talking Egyptian. All of those had a big role to play, especially Egyptian magic. So even all the way down to the ways that they would shave their entire body and really like focus on what they were eating in their diets before they went in as priests to invoke whatever god or whatever temple they were a priest for. So all of those techniques that the Egyptians and the Greeks the and Romans and all the way to, the Byzantine Empire, and all of these things that they did has been pretty much condensed and reduced down into some form and crystallized in what we see in Western traditions today.
Oh, okay, that's dope. So also the Greco-Roman theurgy system influenced the system as well. The third influencer.
Yeah, for sure. So like if we're talking about Solomonic grimoires, the proto-Solomonic grimoire would be the Hygromanteia, which is a Byzantine, which came from Byzantine manuscripts, which is Greco-Roman. I mean, it's in Byzantium. It's Eastern Roman. So there was just so many. There was Jewish. There was Greek. There was so many different influences in these early manuscripts that's what you see today. If we are going to really pinpoint a lot of the influences, a lot of it for sure would be Greek and Greco-Roman influences. So if you look into PGM, which I'm not an expert on the PGM, but there's a lot of binding spirits, a lot of invocations of different gods to help bind spirits and to give them charges and petitions. And that is a lot of what you see in the Solomonic grimoire corpus.
If you don't mind, what is PGM? That's something.
Yeah, so it's the Greek Magical Papyri or Papyri Greco Magicae. Okay. And so that's just a big old manual of it's a composition it's just a huge book of spells that were it's Greco-Roman and Greco-Egyptian spells. So you're going to have invocations to Osiris and then to Selene. You have a Egyptian and a Greek god in the same invocation, and then you'll see Shaddai in there, which is a Hebrew name, god name. So you have all of these different names that are in it, and it's all these different gods that are being invoked. So that is the PGM. It's just a big old spell book that you know how to practice magic. You're probably not going to know how to practically use it.
Oh wow! So you be like you be just be it's basically throwing whatever stick to the wall with that PGM book. So you just on your own, basically. Is it self-taught, or is it like you gotta ask somebody to guide you, like really guide you with that?
It's kind of one of those things. Like if you pick it up at the beginning of your practice, and you don't know much of the foundations of magic, you're really going to be kind of lost. As with a lot of grimoires, but after studying, magic and grimoire magic and how the formulae of magic and ceremonial ritual magic works, then you would be able to open up the PGM and be like, oh, I understand this. Even though there's a lot of missing parts to this, I can make this work as a spell because you know how to plug and play, the correspondences, you have the foundations.
All right, got you. So now we into grimoires. We know the grimoires really came into play like around during the medieval time with characters like Agrippa, right? Can you elaborate on Agrippa and others?
Man, I wish I was a huge expert on Agrippa. Even reading his 3 books of occult philosophy was an uphill climb. He was I don't want to put out any dates out there of when he lived and died. I believe it's the 16th century, so the 1500s. But yeah, he was a staunch Christian, very Catholic. In his 3 books, you have the first book on natural magic, the second book on celestial magic, and the third book on ceremonial magic. And then you have the 4th book, which is quote unquote pseudo Agrippa. They don't know if he wrote it or not. They back then they like to take people's names that were famous and slap it onto things just to give it some more clout, but yeah, he wrote the 3 books of occult philosophy, And he wrote a lot of other material too that isn't as popular as it should be. Haven't really delved into that, but yeah, 3 books. Some would say it is not a reference book, but as someone who practices, it is very much a reference book for correspondences, like magic tables and all different types of techniques of how to create sigils and create ritual and all that fun stuff.
All right, that's dope. Before we get into sigils, right? I would like to, add this in regards to authors of grimoires back then. I know from my studies, and again, I just like you said, I'm not no expert, but I came across like people like Pope Honorius. What's the other Pope? What's the other guy name? He was kind of banned from.
Pope Leo.
Can you repeat that?
There's Pope Honorius, the Sworn Book of Honorius. And then there's the Grimoire of Pope Honorius, which is the more. No, I'm thinking of a saint.
I think the saint I'm talking about too is another saint. I forgot his name. He got like damn, I forgot his name. It'll come back to me. But we know what say it?
Saint Cyprian.
Cyprian, yeah, Cyprian. Yeah, Cyprian, because he's also considered a sorcerer or magician as well. Mm-hmm. And then we had in French, there's a book called Le Grand Petit Albert from Albertus Magnus.
Oh, Albertus Magnus, yes, the Petit Albert, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Petit Albert. How I know about that? You see, now I'm gonna reveal some things about me. My father had that book in the house. So let me tell you, I don't know what he did, but growing up in that house, I was seeing things. I was like, oh hell no, like and people are like, oh, Mike is bugging because Mike doesn't believe in Anunnakis and stuff. But let me tell you, Anunnakis, I get this, but stuff that he was conjuring from that book.
Yeah,
I seen energy. I seen the shift energy. I felt it. It was that book, and there was another book called La Poule Noire, which is the Black Pullet.
Yes, the Black Pullet. The hen that lays the golden eggs. There's different names for it for sure, but yeah, those grimoires were part of the Bibliothèque Bleue. They came, I think it was 17th, 18th century is when they started to loosen up the printing on books. So they started putting out all these books with like blue covers on them. And so you had all of these very, very novelty like grimoires where it's like make a pact with the devil and all of that stuff.
Bro.
And so, yeah, you have a lot of those Bibliothèque Bleue. And so later on in other practices, like you would see in ADRs, like the diasporic religions, they would actually use a lot of those, like the 7th and 6th Book of Moses. And
I said that yesterday. I got that here.
Yeah. The Black Pullet, the Grand Grimoire, they would, what else is another one? The Enchiridion, no, it's, no, I think it is the Black Pullet, but yeah, they would use those, and that's where you would see a lot of convergence between these ADRs and their practices, and then you would sometimes see, oh, they're using a Solomonic pentacle there. That's actually cool,
Okay, so we know about those, right? Those books, and I'm glad we had the Agrippa, the other Black Pullet, Alberta Magnus, then we had the Goetia, which is the Greater Keys of Solomon and the Lesser Keys of Solomon, and some necromancy stuff. Go ahead.
Yeah, the Ars Goetia is the Lesser Key or the Lemegeton, and then the Greater Key was just by default named the Greater Key by A.E. Waite, but originally it's just the Key of Solomon, and there's all different types of manuscripts of the Key of Solomon. So there's many keys, but the Ars Goetia is part of a series of books within the Lemegeton.
All right, I know we're steering, but we're gonna get back. Just for the sake for the listeners and viewers, is it safe for one to pick up the Greater Keys of Solomon or not? Because I hear, like, I get a lot of pushback from some elders around me growing up. They say, "Yo, don't touch that book." Like the Clavicle of Solomon, how they call it. They be like, yo, if you're not ready, you don't touch that book. You don't play with that book. It can harm you. I'd like to know, what is your point of view on that?
just having a book isn't going to mess with you. If someone opens up the book and they start messing around with it, either nothing's going to happen, or if they do end up seeing some stuff around their house, I am of the theory that there is something going on in their life that attracts that type of stuff in the first place. So I think it's rather harmless, and just having the book on your shelf isn't going to hurt you. Even probably reading some of it, out loud probably isn't going to do much of a change around you. But like I said, if you within your life live a certain way and you've already are predisposed to certain things kind of being attracted to you, then you might have some lights flicker here and there.
Some light flickers, things flying, because I heard stories, and there's a lot more grimoires, especially written by the French, that I noticed, because they were like heavy into the ceremonial magic stuff. Yes. And like authors, like you said it, A.E. White, who's another author? Franz Bardon, I think.
Franz Bardon, yeah. I think he was German.
He was German, okay. Franz Bardon, and I can't stand this. Other ones are just running blank in my mind. There's just so many books there. But we'll get back to that. What is the significance of the Hermetic corpus in ceremonial magic?
Oh, the Hermetic corpus. So like you're talking about like the teachings of Hermes Trismegistus, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Those I couldn't go into depth or detail about it because I'm not really a scholar of Hermeticism in the Hermetic texts, but I will say that Hermeticism and Neoplatonism and Kabbalah, all of those philosophies and cosmologies played a part in how we view the spirit realm and how we approach magic. So if we are going to look at like the Hermetic cosmology of the world being in spheres, where you have the lunar sphere, then the solar sphere, and the planetary spheres, that plays into how we actually will formulate a ritual, so those cosmologies for sure have sunk their teeth into Western magic. So we kind of operate based on that. Not all the time, we think differently. We know a little bit more nowadays. We know how that's not how the world is structured. But we do have this, Mars will have an effect. The star will have some type of effect on you. Saturn will have some type of effect on you depending on its orbit. All of these things. So I don't know if I could say that's totally Hermetic, but I can say that the cosmologies of Hermeticism did affect the way we practice, along with like Neoplatonism and Jewish mysticism.
You're right about that, because it does tie into it, because the 7 Hermetic principles, like when you talk about the correspondence and the rhythm of things, so it does somehow it's interlaced in there. Because like if you study one book, it's kind of like with no disrespect to each one, but it's kind of like studying all, because they all start making sense. Like they kind of mirror each other, but it's different terms, because there's like a lot more to it to add to it. And,
yes,
and like ceremonial magic is something that, again, that should be approached with proper care. Not to be fearful, but you got to really be in tune and know what you're doing. Like, as you mentioned, certain sacrifices must be made, like what not to eat for X amount of days, to prepare yourself, abstain from any relations and stuff like that. You can't consume no alcohol. So it's a lot to put into it. And again, as you said, you got to spend some money.
Yeah. You don't want to waste all that money you just spent on that operation. That's for sure.
Yeah, exactly. The operation, as they call it. So, how does ceremonial magic define the relationship between the microcosm and macrocosm?
So, I mean, that old maxim of "as above, so below."
Mhm.
It's the same thing as within, so without. So, something happens on the astral, on the spiritual planes, we see an effect here, and vice versa. Um, so, the way that the microcosm and the macrocosm, they feed into each other. You
Yeah.
know,
Mhm.
um, I couldn't go like too deep into that. It's been a while since I really like contemplated such things like that. I used to contemplate things like that when in my Golden Dawn days all the time. I've become a lot more practical now.
Mhm.
When it comes to like philosophy and things like that, I'm
Yeah.
pretty much the type like, hey, where do we go when we die? I don't know. I haven't been there yet,
Yeah, exactly.
uh, but it's a good way to look at it is like you see in Kabbalah is they say Keter is in Malkut and Malkut is in Keter. The
Yeah.
top Sephira, and then the lower Sephira. So God is in our world and our world is within God. They reflect each other. So I guess that's a good way of putting it, is that like the microcosm and the macrocosm reflect each other, like two mirrors facing each other. So there's always going to be what we do in ceremonial magic. If we do it correctly, then we will have some type of effect on the outside. We'll cause some type of change, whether it be inner or outer.
Outer, exactly. Beautifully said, man. I love how you put that together. I love that. Because man, it's just so much to ceremonial magic, and I'm just so excited talking about this. Right before we go, just a little slight veer we're gonna take. When you got involved with the Golden Dawn, and again, not to reveal anything, how was like the experience? Like, what made you like, you know what? That's it. I'm going in. What pushed you?
So before I was initiated, I remember like picking up books, and showing like Golden Dawn, regalia and things like that. So if you ever seen a Golden Dawn ritual or initiation, there's a lot of pageantry. There's a lot of colors. They were
Yeah.
really into flashing colors. So you're going to see red and green. You're going to see blue and orange. You're going to see violet and yellow.
Mhm.
Um, and it's just really like I've heard a lot of people kind of call it like I forget the name of the toys, but they're like, but they look like toys. The things that they're implements, they're just so colorful. They look like child playthings,
Yeah.
and just the structure of it and the pageantry of it really just drew me to the Golden Dawn. Other than the fact that I was always really like just intrigued by ceremonial magic.
Mm.
So I would say that, and just the mystique behind it, the complicated systems that you see within the Golden Dawn before you even initiated, and when you are initiated, just all of these things that there's just so much to it
Yeah.
that if you some people might be overwhelmed by it, intimidated by it, but for me, I saw it like it was a huge puzzle. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
I got to put things together and in a very poetic sense. It's not like you're not putting together things in that system like math, but everything clicks more like poetry, And
Exactly.
so even though, say, for instance, Kundalini and the serpent of the Garden of Eden are not connected at all, through
Mhm.
contemplation, through what you learn in the Golden Dawn, you learn how to contemplate it in a way that where you can connect them. Like they
Mhm.
have nothing to do with each other,
Yeah.
but I can kind of make them meld together in my mind and see, and that helps reveal some things about each one of those topics. So that was a huge thing that really kind of solidified my stance in the Golden Dawn at that time.
That's dope. That's dope. And what you said is so profound. It's so true because it does, like, when I got into it, I'm not no expert, but it's just like things start making more sense. Like it's no longer just 3-dimensional no more. You be like, there's something behind it.
Hmm.
I'm not looking at it. I'm looking through it. I'm
Yeah.
understanding it now, like a science, because it does something to your mind.
Yeah.
To people it may sound like, oh, you just somehow it's you willfully, as I said earlier before we got on the show, like when reading Crawley books and stuff like that, you deconstructing in your mind the barriers, and you be like, you know what, I'm gonna look at this from all sides. I want to know the essence of it. Why? And to rebuild it, and then you start seeing things making sense, but so abstract, but it makes sense. Like a regular person will just look at it, and I'm trying to say that we above that, but trust me, your mind starts seeing things like, within this chaos, this order. It has
Yeah.
to function this way. You know what I'm saying?
A good example of that, I would say, so within, I believe it's the Zelator grade, you receive, and it has to do with the triplicities of the zodiac. It's a swastika, right?
Yeah.
And it's not the swastika in the sense of Nazi Germany, but the swastika in the sense of a wheel.
It's progression.
Exactly, that we see in the Tibetan shrines and things like that.
Exactly.
Before that guy got a hold of it and ruined it.
Yeah.
And but on this swastika, you have these the bifold cross, I guess. You have the different triplicities of zodiacal signs, and they all kind of associate with each other in a circle, and they connect in a very strange way. Anyways, my whole point is that's an example for when I see a swastika, I no longer think of that history is still a part of it, but it now has a different layer of meaning to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So going along with the point of that, seeing through things and deeper meanings.
Got you. We have a question here from Suli. Shout out to Suli. She's asking, is shadow work or healing an important part of your practice?
So it's always a part of a practice, because when you are dealing with yourself and trying to engage with spirits and all with the means to affect some type of outcome in your life, you're always kind of forced to face yourself. Along with that, when you are dealing with magic, it tends to kick dust up in your life. So any type of inner things that bother you that you haven't really confronted, they will come to light. And so you do have to confront those certain qualities about your personality that are a little seedier than others. So whether it was something, it's like, whether I set out to do shadow work, it's always going to be a component that you cannot avoid when it comes to working magic.
Got you. That's dope. That's dope. So that's a beautifully said. You got the answer, Sue? Yeah, that's dope, bro. So I'm glad that you mentioned that. She mentioned the shadow work. So this goes right into that. How does ceremonial magic interpret the nature of consciousness?
Oh man, there's so many different ways to go about this. You're going to have so many different ideas and theories on this. I kind of look at so it's going to come down to a personal perspective. Each and every magician is going to have a certain way they look at it. They might have some similarities, but I see consciousness as it is unified. I do see it's like a blanket. It's a fabric that we all live within. And through consciousness is where the threads and the intertwined threads are, where we find ourselves, our thoughts, our archetypes, spirits, everything with that's within this world that we live in, as in not world as in earth, but the world. Yes, reality. So you know, when I think about consciousness and I am in doing a ceremony and I'm trying to engage with the spirit, it's not a figment of my imagination. It's not a figment of my scribe's imagination. It is an actual independent entity, but they are able to manipulate our consciousness, or not manipulate it, but kind of mold itself into, say our consciousness is like a cup, and
Yes.
and that entity will fill that cup and conform to the shape of it. So it could show up to many different people as different things, but we understand it with a certain shape or certain type of personality, so it can conform to it. And so I think consciousness, it affects the way that spirits engage with us in magic, and then it also affects the way that we perceive them and engage with them. So that is my thought on consciousness when it comes to spirit engagement. And then anything else beyond that, we would probably have to keep on, you know. Yeah.
It's funny, I got this book right here, right? I got too many books, right? You probably seen this one before.
Which one is that? Oh, the Science of the Kabbalah.
Yeah, with the 72 angels, right? And before, what's so beautiful about that? Because I see as you speaking, I see you moving, because I go through that too. Like when he's speaking about stuff like this, the energy start flowing. Like it usually, I don't know, usually starts feeling in your spine. You be like, start moving. Like whenever I'm in a practice, I do feel like I'm like, yo, like I'm moving. I'm like, why am I moving like this? Like, you know what I'm saying? Because certain incantations you're doing, then there's the incense going, and then the prayers are dropping. Talk about the 72 angels. Like I always tell people, the 72 angels consist of the 4 elements of the universe, right? Each of them have they tie also into the zodiac. If you go,
yes, the because there's 36 decans, I believe, and so there's 2 per decan, if I remember correctly. The 72 angels are actually derived from the 72-fold name, the Shem HaMephoresh, and that means pretty much the explicit name, I believe. And these angels were derived from the permutations of a certain verse in Exodus. I forget the verse exactly. But yeah.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Because all right. You know what? We're gonna just drop it like this for the people. You can work with the 72 angels. If you're reading Psalm 119, that's all I'm gonna say. It has them right there. you can also work with them. But I know in Exodus, I forgot. I like where you were going with this. I know when, damn. Yeah, but yeah.
Yeah, and the 72 angels, they were a whole. It was, if you look into Johann Reuchlin, he was a German occultist. He kind of coined the whole thing of having 72 angels. So this was part of the whole Christian Renaissance Kabbalah thing that was going on. Very much a Christian appropriation of Jewish Kabbalah. Yes. Very much so. But he kind of he started that engine up. Him and I forget the other guy's name, Kircher, I believe. Aloysius Kircher, if I remember that name correctly. Yeah, they kind of got the whole ball rolling with the 72 angels being connected to the God names and all fun stuff.
Yeah, and it's funny how you mentioned that, right? Because there's also like positioning. Like I'm just saying, if people based on their zodiac, whatever they're trying to do, right? The positioning. Is it too much to say the LBR to mention that?
No, you're fine. Yeah, no, it's very much known. Yeah.
So we could talk about the lesser banishing of the pentagram rituals, like before you go to bed. Like it's something I do before going to bed, right? And there's certain positioning you put yourself where, based on your zodiac, if you go in, like if you were Leo or Sagittarius, that's a fire sign. You aim towards the south to make communication with that angel, Michael, because that's how there's certain tricks around it, like things you come up with. You be like, all right, I'm trying to present to something that works, that correlates with my zodiac. I'm trying to work with, so I'm gonna aim towards the north.
Yeah, that isn't a part of the traditional formula of the LBRP, but I'll tell you right now, that really sounds like something that like would be spirit led. Like you're doing it and then it tells you like, oh, you are a Leo, so it's best for you to do it this way. And a lot of the times our practice is spirit led if we listen closely. So that's why you can never really give someone advice on how to go about a practice because it's like it's all very idiosyncratic.
Yeah, damn. See, love that, man. So you see, we could keep you here. If I keep you for 4 hours, I'm like, you'll stay 4 hours. We're gonna go all the way. We're gonna do a marathon on this because this is dope. How does Ceremonial Magic explain spiritual authority?
Ooh, spiritual authority. That's a good one. Spiritual authority is huge. So Solomonic magic, obviously the Tale of Solomon. He pretty much bound these demons to build the temple, right? And so you have this lore behind it. So authority and being able to charge these spirits and have authority over them is a huge deal. So we have these implements, we have these conjurations. If you look into the conjurations in the Heptameron or the Ars Goetia, or the Key of Solomon the King, you have all of these things like, like when Moses, and it talks about Moses and the Pharaoh and how he made they made his staffs turn into snakes and how they made it rain toads. And then it talks about all these different tales within the Bible, and it's saying like if you do not adhere to what I am saying or fall to the knees of God, then I will cast you to the pit like he did in this Bible verse. And so you see that in the conjurations. Then you have the implements, you have the crown, you have the sword, you have the wand, all of these things of authority. You have sigils all over everything that is God names, divine names. You have become this badge of authority. I am Solomon. I am an instrument of God. Therefore, I am not to be played with, and you do what I say. Now, that isn't everything there. As I've practiced, I found faith has a lot to do with it. You have to have faith in it. You can't just wear the costume and think it's going to work. You have to actually think that those divine names are actually powerful. When I recite the rosary during before conjurations, I feel the current of religious power within that through my ancestors, my Filipino ancestors who were Catholic as hell. So I feel there's a power current through that, and the fact that I believe in that, it really adds to this authority within it. If I didn't believe it, then the spirits are like, you don't even believe that anyways. So faith has a lot to do with it. And believing in what you're doing has a lot to do with authority. Authority, and then like within the circle you see in the grimoires, there's always the main component that you will see is divine names. And I know we're used to think of circles as protection, which of course, they do put a mental wall there, but I found that they mostly have to do with the names. It is pretty much saying this is under the jurisdiction of God.
Gotcha.
And you are now at the presence of a child of God, a creature of God, whatever it may be. There is an oath that you made to God, and you also fall under God's mechanics. And because of this verse in the Bible says, I was made a little bit lower than the angels, but I have power over his works, you are now have to abide. But that doesn't mean that they can't play with you or trick you or mess around with you.
They will. Because you gotta come, because I'm glad you said that. Like, you have to cover yourself before engaging in any operation. Because whenever you are praying, let's say, for good energy, because everything works in polarities, expect the negative to be there. Even when you light that candle with good intention, the negative is around it within that darkness. So as you said, you got to come in there and authorize, like, I, in the name of blah, 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 say your rank, who I am, I cast out all wickedness, and boom, everything must be consecrated. You must make sure you consecrate things yourself. You must be pure when you step in.
Yes.
And you got to exert that energy. That you got to say it with such force. Like you got to feel it. Like to a point, you feel like your head, like, yeah, I already felt that. Like they around, like, okay. And then you got to get into your operation. You got to constantly cover your operation. Somebody got a comment up here. Super interesting conversation, brothers. Peace, Shawnee. How you doing, my brother? Shawnee's loving this. How you doing, brother? All right. So next one I want to ask right here. Well, this is a good one. Speaking of polarities, right? What is the role of polarity, light, dark, masculine, feminine, in ceremonial systems? Because some people could be a little bit misogynist out there, and I'm like, nah, you need the polarity. You got to work.
Yeah. So it depends on what we're talking about. If we're looking at gender as in more of an action rather than gender as in something that's been generated, like male or female, like as in a woman and a man. If we're looking at gender as in masculine and feminine energy, then it has its places for sure. You will always look at Mars as masculine because it's active and it pushes and it forces. And then you look at something like Venus, which has its masculine traits at certain points because it's a bit fiery, but it's more of the passionate lover. It will take in and it accepts, and it. So feminine energy is a bit more passive, while the masculine is active, and they both have their pros and their cons depending on what is going on and what you're working. But polarity, like if I'm going to talk about like spirits and like working with spirits in my scryer, like there's been times where there's spirits that are very masculine in the way they show up. And then there's times where they are very androgynous and they really don't have a gender to them, and you can't really tell what it is. If we're talking about magic and actual males and females working in the magical community, it depends where you're at. I mean, it's historically it's a male dominated thing, but some of the best magicians and seers that we have within our community are
women. Yo, bro, I say that I'm gonna catch flack for this. Some brothers are like, what the hell you said? No, I'm telling you, because if we in a circle whatsoever, right? And depending on, like you said, whether it's from a Christic magic perspective, Christian base, Islamic, whatever the case is, when we invoking certain energy, certain words, we saying, "Oh, divine mother, cosmic mother," this and that. You get what I'm saying? Like we know, like we start off, you say, "Our fathers," whatever, this and that, to give reverence. But then you like, "Oh, cosmic mother, divine mother, this and that." Yo, nurse me back, help me with this situation.
Yeah.
It takes the first teacher of every child is the mother for those 9 months of gestation, and the womb is where we all strive to get back into.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Mary, the Virgin Mary has a lot of pressure or a lot of force within my ceremonies. We've had things come up around a circle before that we were kind of unsure exactly what it was. And I would say our fathers, but they kind of like, whatever. But once I started reading those Hail Marys, it was like all of a sudden like, oh, like we don't want anything to do with this. So, that divine feminine energy for sure. It's something else.
Yeah, man. It's true. Cause there are times like say, oh, Sekhmet, or Isis, Mother Isis, Sagwumu, all of those divine women, this and that person. I even times if I'm doing something, I even evoke, I'll say my grandmother name from both sides. And then I'll feel the energy like shift or healing. Or say, for instance, you're doing like a divination for somebody, or making like a little whatever potion so they could just rub on themselves or work. You always say that, let me contact the ancestors. And I always say, ask for the spirits first from your mom's side, and then we go to your father's side. But it's most important to announce you, he or she is the child of such and such, who is the child of such and such, because it comes from the lineage from the umbilical cord of the universe. It's the mother. Like, yes, the man planted the seed, but the temple that's being constructed without the sound of a hammer is in the womb. So we got to get reference. So I know a lot of dudes gonna be like, "Yo, I don't like this. What they saying? So what? We don't have no, brother. We're not negating you. We're just telling you when it comes to these practices, we know where we headed."
Yeah.
So, what is the magician's role in cosmic order?
Ooh, in cosmic order. Well, this can get a bit of this is a quite grand question here. Cosmic order. If we're talking about order of the cosmos and we're talking about magic, then all of a sudden we're talking about the universe as being within ourselves, and what is the role of me within my own universe? But if we're talking about within the grand scale of things and like our role within the community, and others, to be honest with you, magic can be a very selfish thing. If you look at the old grimoires, they're just like, how do I get paid? How do I get laid? I want to, I want gold. I want to win horse races, and I want my enemies' wounds to fester after I shoot them with arrows,
Magnus. You've been saying that a lot.
So all of these they're very kind of selfish things that you see in these old grimoires. Not until the Victorian magical Renaissance did you start to see more of this self-development thing happening, when psychology and Eastern meditation practices came into play. Then you started to see this inner alchemy that started to happen. And I think that is when, we started to look at our practice more as something that could help mankind rather than just help ourselves, rather than just winning that horse race or gambling.
Talk about it. Yep.
So, it's, you see it all the way from English cunning men in their villages being, to the Yoruba or the Congo people having their the doctors of the village that would help them and things like that. So you always had these magicians within these within the days of old, within different cultures that would help their fellow community. And in the end, our role within the cosmic mechanism within humanity, that is the higher aspiration of it, as compared to the lower desires of winning the horse race, So yeah, I don't know if I answered your the question was quite.
No, you did. No, you did. You did. Because again, with magic, there are some people that just want things to be simple. With magic, it's never a simple answer. You get an answer within an answer within an answer within an answer. Like it pushes you to dig deep, because there's there's a base, but you never hit that base.
Yeah,
you never hit that base.
Never.
So definitely, before we get up out of it, I'm asking one more question, because we gotta do a part 2, brother. We gotta come back. You gotta do a part 2, because this is people loving this. You gotta come back.
Yeah, of course.
How are talismans created and consecrated?
Talismans. How are they created? You could make a lot of different things into talismans. It has to have that that good juju behind it. Those good vibes or bad vibe, depending on what you're trying to do. Mm-hmm. But if we're talking classically, so if we were going to take a Solomonic pentacle, right? Many of these Solomonic pentacles will have angels' names written around them, but more commonly, they have a biblical verse written around them. All right. Now this goes back to like those old school Jewish amulets where they would just have a scroll of the Torah written up in it, and it would help protect them against evil spirits or whatever, or, you know, or disease or whatever it may be. So have these pentacles with the psalm written around it. And then you have, usually in it, you have a diagram of like different type of sigils. And these sigils usually correspond to the planet. Some sigils that we see in these grimoires tend to be a little bit like, look like they're corrupted from older ones, or we just might not know where they came from. But they, nevertheless, being part of that Saturnian or that Jupiterian pentacle, it's become part of that fabric. So you have these, and you have the psalm, and you have the sigils. The sigils have the virtues of that planet, and the psalm also carries that powerful current within itself. Just like you see in hoodoo, there's a lot of psalm magic, you know, and that because psalm magic is powerful. Folk Catholic.
I love psalm magic. Listen, I deal with psalm magic, and not to cut you. Hold on to what you're saying. I always tell people, if you take the word psalm, and this came from, rest in peace to the elder, from the elder C.L. Freeland. Psalm just means lamps, because you always gotta have a candle with it.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So that's all it is. And I'm glad you said that.
So you have this psalm, which is essentially the incantation for the pentacle. All right. Now, this is what I'm describing here is pretty much the structure of a talisman. You have sigils. You have some type of image that is connected to the force, whether it be planetary, whether it be terrestrial, whatever it may be. You can even be a talisman of your ancestors. Like I have made my Holy Bible into a ancestral talisman, to where I carry it with me to certain operations, and it is there to represent my ancestors. So you have these images, and then you have the incantation around it, the psalm around it. So now that you have this talisman with the image and the word, you now consecrate it, right? So you would, of course, exercise the paper and the pens, whatever you make this with, because you want everything to be pure. You don't want it to have any of that bad juju connected to it, right? They use Florida water and tobacco. Perfect. You know? And so you have this talisman that you made up, and you want to consecrate it. You usually fumigate it. So you have like some burning frankincense. Frankincense is great for that. So you hang it over that. And I always look at it like you're fumigating a house full of rodents. You're getting rid of them. There's also things in the Picatrix that talks about the heat of the incense actually activates the spirits within it.
Picatrix.
Yeah. Right. So you fumigate it. You're consecrating it with the suffumigations, and then you still have to activate it. Of course, you suffumigate it with the incense, and then you sprinkle a little bit of holy water. You might anoint it a little bit with some holy oil that you made. Just you're really building up these layers of sanctity. And then you activate it with the psalm, the incantation, and this is something you would usually say as you're putting it over the incense, or as you are engraving it, or as it did this. These words is what's like this. Is what's putting the intention and the will into not only the talisman, but it's also awakening the spirit within that root, within that herb, within that stone, whatever it may be. Whatever you're making into the talisman, you are awakening the spirits that are attached to those sigils, to that incantation. So image, words, and then of course your holy water or your Florida water, whatever, your blessed water, and your suffumigations. However you want to go about it, those are the components for how to create and to activate a talisman.
Got you. It's beautifully said, my brother. Oh my God. See, that's so deep. And then you got to make sure that word vibrate. You got to make sure you vibrate, give that word life. You just don't say it, hi. You got to from the soul. You gotta, you gotta know that it's working. Let it, vibrate through you. With that being said, go ahead.
I will say, like what you just talked about vibrating, there have been times where I've said a conjuration and nothing was really coming through. But when I started to sing the name, like sing it like you would in a church, all of a sudden my scryer's like, boom, there it is. That's what it was waiting for.
We gotta talk about that scribe, man, because I think on your page I noticed, man. I was being a little nosy. I saw like you had that mirror. I'm like, my man got a magic mirror. Yo, that's crazy. Like, that's my first time, not second time seeing that, but I'm like, you got a magic mirror. We gotta talk about that next show. We gotta get into that because I like to hear a different perspective, like tarot. I don't know if you're familiar with John Dee, the works of John Dee.
I just started getting into John Dee. Actually, my scryer is my partner, and she has really wanted to start to get into Enochian because she's super interested in John Dee and Edward Kelly. So that's become her ball game because I don't know anything about Enochian.
All right, we're gonna tap into some other things definitely, but Man of Madim, thank you, brother, for coming out, man. I appreciate you for coming out tonight for educating us, enlightening us on what's going on with her ceremonial magic, how it's practiced, and your experiences. Where can the people reach you, man, if they want to learn more?
You could reach me at TikTok, Man of Madim, man_of_Madim, in the same handle for Instagram as well. Facebook, you could find me under my name, Quinn Cover, QUINNKOVER.
Yes.
And yeah, those are where you could find me. And I'm usually pretty approachable, and I don't ignore a lot of people unless they come at me in a very odd fashion.
Definitely. Do you do tarot also? Do you do tarot, all that? Or you don't?
I did for a while, but I ended up switching over to old school playing cards because I really liked how like conjure folks would use playing cards rather than tarot. Even though I do like tarot and I did mess with it for a while and I understand the foundations of it, I actually like using playing cards.
That's the best right there. All right then, my brother. I appreciate you for coming out, man. People, don't forget to comment, like, share, subscribe. This video will be on the YouTube. The audio will be available on all streaming platforms. Go back, watch it, learn from it, bring out a notepad. Until we meet again, we out. Peace.